couldn't get to it. Uh, a few weeks ago, I got really busy, and so I'd spread a lot of lettuce seed. And instead of planting it in the garden and transplanting it, I ended up with a salad box.
Wow. A salad box.
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
it's pretty
That looks
small,
beautiful.
but,
Woo! Well,
but it,
I gotta take the folks back. You're so excited to share. I know you have much to share, but tell me, who are you, Felicity? It looks like you have quite a story growing up in California and how you got started, basically. A little idea. How did you get started in backyard gardening?
thank you for asking. I grew up downtown LA during and during the war and after. And so I really lived with my grandmother, who was a famous lecturer on wildflowers in downtown LA. And I didn't realize until later that what she was really lecturing about was the edibles and the foraging that she and her sisters would do in the hills above Chinatown when she was growing up very, very poor. And a lot of the weeds that we have in our garden were plants that the peasants brought over that were used for edibles, for medicinal, and so on. So uh, I've always had a good time out in the backyard, and I've had several little farms, an acre farm and a third of an acre farm, and now I have 2.5 acres, which is almost too much.
That's
Uh, but it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good things to I didn't know it at the time. I loved mud. I loved dirt. Do you know that there is serotonin in that dirt and it can make you happy?
no.
So I just have a grand time out there. It's very healthy, and you can start very small with a little salad box. That salad box there was on a buffet for sandwich making a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's fun.
Oh, I think the world of gardening is such a treat because you actually see the existence of life unfold right in front of you. Now, I got to take you back for a minute. You said dirt. There was something you brought up that was really pressing to me, and I've got it in my grass right now from the neighbor, and that's a little critter like a gopher. And I guess you were saying that's the hardest thing. They like what's the deal with gophers? What can we do?
Good question. I'm having a problem with gophers this year. I'm also having a problem with overabundance, and they're kind of helping me in some ways. I'm not very good with gophers. My next attack is going to be the gopher hawk. I heard it was really good. I don't like trapping gophers. My cats do most of it, so I can't really help you on the gophers. I flood them out. Whenever I see a fresh hill, I just stick a hose down there and let it go. But that's kind of pricey and with city water.
You know,
So
I just did that today, and I found the hole, put the dirt somewhere else in another bed, and found the hole. And I thought, oh, this shouldn't take long. That just kept going. The water and water kept going and going. I was like, where is this hotel with all of its hallways?
under your house,
Oh,
this time of year, we
really?
have the baby gophers everywhere,
Oh,
and the mothers are feeding the gophers, and my cats are catching a lot of the babies that aren't aware of what's happening yet.
yeah.
I heard bubble gum works.
Bubblegum. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and
this is a
the
hard
yard guy says that it works, and I don't do it enough to really figure it out. And I do have a little bag of bubble gum. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, no problem. We've got so much to talk about. Okay, first of all, you let's take you back a little bit. You were talking about your grandmother knowing native herbs as well as the wildflowers. Can you just explain the native herbs? I love that idea because a good dish needs some healthy, good herbs.
Well, we have sage, and yarrow is native. I believe. You know, I I'm not sure. I listen to her very well on the native herbs. I do kind of do my own thing with the flowers and stuff. Mallow is an herb that is useful for your. I think it's an edible, but you have to be pretty desperate, and in my opinion. But it's also used as a salve for infections and stuff
Oh,
like a poultice.
what's that called again?
Mallow, Mall. You know what cheeseweed is?
No.
You know that stuff that spreads and has a little tiny round seed that looks like a little round cheese?
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Well, once you get it in your garden, you can't miss it. And it just spreads like crazy. And it's very important for other things, not just edible, but it does in bad soil, it penetrates the soil so that water can get down in there.
Okay.
So it is a very useful plant. Another native is nettles.
No,
And
I've heard of metals.
nettles is very healthy. It's got a lot of vitamins in it and good as a tea. It's a terrific uh, as a spinach. If you cook it, there are no stinging.
Hmm. And what does nettle look like?
Good question.
Like,
It's a low, fuzzy looking plant, a little bit like a mint.
oh,
Oh, and if you, a lot of things that you might think are mint will have a square stem.
hmm.
So if you go down and you see, oh, maybe that's mint, I wouldn't do it with nettles. A friend of mine sniffed nettles one time.
Oh,
That was a big mistake.
oh, mm.
But I think nettles might even be another mint, but I haven't I'll have to look into that. I know mints, all mints and many sages have square stems.
Right. Oh, okay. Square stems. I've never heard of that in my life. So that's kind of okay. That's good to know. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
guess so. Sedges have wedges or whatever that other poem is.
Well, another item you brought up that's quite you find it quite often in gardens, and a lot of times you want to pull them right away is weeds. But you're saying you shared that they're beneficial. What do you mean by that?
Some weeds attract beneficial insects, like this thistle, which is a very big pain in the wrong place in your garden. Dragonflies love them. So dragonflies eat a lot of bugs, and ladybugs love the a certain of the wild weeds. So a lot of those weeds actually bring in beneficial insects that'll predate on your aphids or whatever you have. Another thing about aphids is a lot of times you're just overwatering your plant. And once you make it juicy, a juicy cocktail instead of a semi broccoli, solid broccoli, they want in.
I have never had good luck with broccoli. I get the beautiful broccoli itself, and then it's full of white powder almost. And somebody said that was your insects, and I was like, why can't I get this right? And you're saying, so if I were to water, would you say water low and just
Water low, but not very much. Don't I think people overwater. Imagine the farmer in the old days feeding his 5 kids and didn't have a hose.
yeah,
Well, he would use a bucket to, and so I don't think these plants need as much water as we're giving them. And I know that I quit watering my peaches because the peaches weren't very tasty until I stopped watering them.
wow.
And I think that's the same with tomatoes too. You get a tastier fruit if you don't overwater. And that
That makes
bugs like that overwatered, tasty, untasty fruit.
well, when I drink too much water, I feel a little bit bloated and everything else, and so why wouldn't it be with trees and plants and such? I gotcha.
Their roots are really drowning under there. If you,
Yeah,
you know,
right. Right.
they really need to be pulling up minerals and things like that.
Now, as you pull certain things out of the garden or you streamline it, I've always been one. I love to compost. I do all my foods from the inside and throw them in a bin out there, and then we use it, and it's so rich and it looks so beautiful, coffee grounds and such. What about the leaves, big leaves, let's say of squash or something? You got those big leaves, or the big leaves of rhubarb I have. Are those okay to throw in and grind
Sure,
them?
everything's good. Everything will rot. Lots of big leaves. Sometimes I put old pieces of wood down in the bottom, and you pull out the compost, and you'll see all kinds of glorious bugs and things in that stuff chomping away at the mildew or fungus or whatever it is in those rotten pieces of wood. So the more you can rot, the better, and big leaves are fine.
Okay.
Mostly my goats do the composting.
Oh, nice.
So
How many?
they,
How many goat? Oh, yes, you have a farm. You have
I
how many?
have 7
There
goats,
you go. 7 goats and
and they're
three
very good animals.
dogs. Yeah.
3 dogs, 3 cats, gophers. I've even seen a black-footed martin here in Tampa. Not a martin, some kind of weasel. I forget what we call them. Anyway, I actually saw a mountain lion down in the creek
I think you.
several months ago.
I think they could be interested in your 12 ducks.
Oh, I have some baby ducks, and they just got some new ones. They really keep my garden clean of snails, slugs, all kinds of bugs. They're very good at that.
Wow. Yes, yes, yes.
And
Well,
I also have a little duck pond for my ducks,
uh,
and they love the water. And I move the pond every few days to a new fruit tree, and there's lots of luscious fertilizer in that pond water.
isn't that nice? Yeah, I just watched a movie on redoing our gardens and our farms because of the environment. And the richest stuff comes from algae, I've heard. So that's, yeah, why wouldn't it? Ponds with algae, mushrooms, that's a whole nother topic, I think. Um,
We get more oxygen from the ocean than we do from the rainforest.
yeah, that's interesting. I go figure. We're not told that all the time, are we?
Hardly ever.
Well, before we get into your gardening techniques,
Well,
there's some wonderful benefits that you stated here for your health and well-being, and one heart is about taking control of our health. And so you're saying serotonin in the dirt, which is really good for us. You said vitamin D.
from the sun,
The sun.
yeah. We
Uh,
get a
I
lot
heard
of
that's
that. You only need 20 minutes a day, but you really do need it. And Americans are lacking.
big time. Big time. Yeah. My goodness, you said some other things here. I'm not quite sure what you mean, but older homes, of course, have the lead paint. And
Oh, hey, I want to talk about sunflowers.
yep, there we go.
Yeah,
Sunflowers.
sunflowers. Sunflowers are beneficial, and a lot of beneficial insects are attracted to sunflowers because of the pollen and the nectar. Bees love sunflowers, but sunflowers are also an accumulator, and they will pull out metals out of the ground. If you have an older home on a lot
I do.
where it's maybe pre 76 or 78 when the lead paint was taken off the market, you might want to grow some sunflowers around that yard a season or two and take the sunflowers to the dump because the sunflowers will pick up lead. My sunflowers in my yard right now I've been feeding them to my goats because they also pick up copper. And so goats need copper. So sunflowers are really kind of an important flower to put in your yard. The,
Wow.
the lemon queen sunflower is the one that's been kind of elected to be the research sunflower. It's a lighter colored sunflower and it has a beautiful crown of sunflowers at the
Mm,
top. And the researchers like to use the lemon queen, especially because they have equal parts pollen and nectar and uh, they just use that one. I
That
like to mix them, and I haven't planted sunflowers in several years now. The the goldfinch has just arrived in my yard, and they are uh, finding all of the dry seeds, and they miss a lot of seeds.
mm.
So every year they plant my sunflowers. So my
Oh,
lemon queens were married to my gray giants, and now I have giant lemon queens.
wow.
And so it goes. Oh, I think I have even a few Walmart sunflowers. If you want to find cheap sunflowers, go to Walmart
Hmm.
and buy bird seed.
Well, I've had a few drop in my garden from, I think, birds.
Of
I don't know.
course.
And here comes this beautiful flower I didn't plant, and I'm like, wow,
And
I
I
got
had them in
a blessing.
December.
December. Well,
Yes, because I didn't plant them, and somebody started in the fall.
that's California for you.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, okay. There were a couple of things you mentioned too. Juicy plants, miracle grow, and bugs on our food. What are you talking about? Okay.
Oh,
Ju-
wait a minute. That's a lot.
okay.
Um, if you want to have a decent garden, you probably it would be best to put humus into the soil. Straw, dead leaves. Miracle Grow doesn't feed the soil, it feeds the plant. And there's so much down there below the soil that is part of the support system of the plant, the worms, the bugs, the mycelium. There's a fungus down there that's helping everything grow. Ants are harvesting all kinds of fungus down there. And when you put all those chemicals in, you really have the more delicate animals have a problem with that. So I recommend just trying to do the best you can with mulches. Sometimes add some iron if your plants are very yellow,
Hmm.
but stay away from Miracle Grow if at all possible. It works for fine for a while, but you stop using it and you have dead earth.
That's what their this latest movie I saw was talking about. Our farms have been over-tilled and it's dry topsoil now, and there's nothing rich, nothing to give the vegetables or anything. So it's why we're getting the wildfires here in California, which is scary, and bad farming is adding up to our environmental problems, so it's interesting.
Nutrition, actually. And look, these are the tools I use. I hardly ever use a big shovel. Too much trouble. And all that underneath us in the ground is a whole city of things happening.
Right.
And whenever you dig in, you're destroying what they've already built. And it's a delicate system. So that's, and then of course I got to tell you my grandma's favorite weeding system, because I do a lot of weeding. I sit on the ground and pull out those babies one at a time. It's very meditative. I have an audio book, I have headphones, and I crawl around on the ground pulling out the baby weeds.
I
It's
think that's
fun.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Um, so let's bring you back. Talk about cheap hobby until you're addicted.
Well, once you get, you can, you can buy seeds at Walmart, bird seed, there's the sunflowers. A lot of things that you buy a seed packet will reseed the next year, like chard is reseeding, kale is reseeding, lettuce reseeds. There are a lot of reseeders. Um, in the 70s, I could spend a whole summer with $7 worth of seed. Never go anywhere, be happy in my garden, uh, pulling weeds, transplanting, and harvesting. Actually, I think I do more planting than I do harvesting. I just adore touching dirt.
Yeah.
And so it's a cheap hobby until you want the special aloe with the yellow blossom that blooms in the summer, then it gets expensive.
Okay, now you're over my head a little bit there. But if you were to advise somebody just starting this out, especially with their children, for maybe a real fun summer project, school's winding down as well. Parents are going to be trying to figure out what they can do for the babies. Um, go to Walmart, get a little
Okay.
container. How do you where
Uh,
do you start?
Well, you know what? Even though I have this little container here, you can use a shoe box. You can use a cottage cheese carton. You could use a milk carton sideways. When I was a kindergarten teacher, I sent the kids home with all kinds of plants in those little tiny milk cartons.
Yeah.
And so big milk cartons would work. I have some friends that come over. One of them is 6, and I put him on planting pumpkins. And we first we're going to put them in a little carton, and then when they're bigger, we're going to put them in the ground. And then with the pumpkins, you can actually write your name on it, and as the pumpkin grows, the name, yeah, or you can design the pumpkin in certain ways.
How
So
fun.
pumpkins are a very good thing. Sunflowers are great to eat. A nice salad box. And you know, in kindergarten, there were a lot of kids that didn't like salad. And I'd go, that's okay. You're just not big enough. And by the end of the year, they were all eating lettuce.
Yeah, that's
And
cute. That's cute. Yeah, I think it's important because I was talking over the fence the other day. She was sharing some oranges because I'd given a lot of mine away and they dropped off, and I said, I can remember there was an apple tree at my first little house I was renting that I wouldn't eat the apples because in my mind, growing up in a time period where convenience was at the store and my parents could buy it at the store and it was packaged real pretty, I didn't really understand or the concepts of where this packaging of stuff came from. So grabbing it off a tree in my own backyard, is that not silly? Can't be something I should be eating. It, children just don't have a clue. They don't, right?
no, they don't really understand until they start watching things grow. And it's kind of hard if they live in an apartment or
Right.
something like that. But they can still grow. You can grow all kinds of things. Actually, this might be a good time to promote the 3 web Facebook sites I run.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Um, One is kind of a fun one. It's called the Santa Maria Backyard Exchange, and people from all over the world have actually been joining in the last month. Gardening has become a great interest.
Right.
So Santa Maria Backyard Exchange, we do not allow any advertising of businesses. It's all about, I have a bunch of loquats. Who wants loquats? Who has lemons? I need lemons for a party tonight, and so on and so forth. And people start networking and sharing what they have in their garden, like they used to do in many, many villages. I have a Chinese friend that said that's how they did it in her village in China.
Oh,
Somebody grew the onions, somebody grew the garlic. Her dad was some kind of military guy, and so he got the salt.
mm,
So there's the backyard, Santa Maria Backyard Exchange on
mhm,
Facebook.
mhm.
And then there is the Nipomo Gardeners. And then there's also Central Coast Green Team, and that's another site. And usually I post whatever I post on one site, I post on another, but there are other people that are posting on those sites too. So you get a lot of information on, especially container gardening. I kind of focus on container gardening because I know that there are a lot of people just starting out, and heck, one container on your balcony, you'll
Right.
have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I even saw something last night about hanging baskets and tomatoes and strawberries, I guess. That would be a
Yeah,
fun thing, watching it grow. Yeah.
growing in pallets. That there were milk cartons or some kind of cartons where they stacked them up and they had a whole wall garden.
Oh, yeah, yeah, with those crates, those big crates.
Yeah,
Yeah, they turn it on the side, hang it on your wall, put dirt,
and
soil.
block your neighbors.
There you go, block your neighbors. And then you have the Nipomo gardeners.
Nipomo Gardeners is another site, and it's not specifically for Nipomo. Oh, you know what? There's also another site that I do not run, but anybody interested, if you want free fruit trees or very reasonable fruit trees, belong to the California Rare Fruit Growers, San Luis Obispo chapter. They are incredible. Every month, second Saturday of the month, they have a meeting many times at somebody's private garden or orchard or commercial orchard. We toured Driscoll's Berry Farm, and they talk about something specific, and there's always an expert there if you need to have a question answered. They've been talking about the mangoes that are being grown now specifically for the Central Coast.
Wow.
And so can I tell you that gardening can get expensive
Yes, it can.
and addictive.
Yeah,
So and it's a great hobby. There are a lot of good people in gardening. You don't find a lot of crabby people in gardening.
no crabby people in gardening.
Not too
Yeah,
many.
I think there was through the recreation department a lot you could buy by the Mussel Center, and for I don't know, 20 or $35 a year, and you could grow it. And people, that's a great way for community too, to visit with people, to talk with people, to share your goodies with each other. That's real community. That's a real community.
There is that community garden behind Muscle Center, and I'm not sure if the green team is still renting that. I kind of ran out of steam because my garden here got so big, but I was helping with the actual community garden, and maybe we should talk to Jeannie about whether or not that's still available for somebody to use because it's a nice little plot right at the entrance.
Right, right. Wow, you've given us just a sliver. I think, as all my guests, I'm going to have to bring you back on. Does that sound good to you, Felicity?
Be happy to, my pleasure.
I know. And we have a story. I just got to share this with the folks. So I was teaching in my backyard and eating my lunch in between students, and I hear this bzzz sound, and I'm like, what is that? And I look up over the back of my neighbor's house. A whole swarm of bees comes up, down, and plops itself in my backyard. Actually, it landed in a lemon tree in my neighbor's backyard. I was scared to death. Of all things that was happening that evening, I went to a meeting that was put on, and they were having a featured speaker on bees. And I was like, I'm going because what if somebody wants these? What do I do with them? Didn't understand, got a wealth of information, met a gentleman, met you. You guys came out and got those bees, and you took them back and used them on your farm. So that was
Yeah.
so fun. But
And bees, when
really,
they're swarming, are not dangerous. They're full of honey. They're looking for a home. They're protecting their queen. So they're loaded down with this honey and a little bit drunk, and they're definitely not dangerous. But call somebody. There's some great beekeepers in town.
right.
And I have several friends that are beekeepers. Friend me on Facebook or find those garden things. Help me with the bees, and we'll come out and help you.
Yeah, don't spray them or get rid of them. We need them. We need them so
No, we
badly.
need them.
Yeah, well, again, thank you so much for any of you out there interested in starting your backyard garden. This is a great time. Summer's here. I've got 7 or 8 of those wine barrels. I fill it with dirt and then some good, healthy, organic soil. You can find it. Put your seeds in there, a little watering, right? A little watering, a little love,
A little
a
water,
little
yes.
tender
At
care.
first, probably a lot of water, but
Yeah.
not too much after.
Yeah, and then when the plants grow, a little less water, as you were
Well,
saying.
thank you.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you all, and you all have a wonderful day. This is Jo Lynn with Felicity Lazo. Put some links in the bottom, as I usually do, where you can find these different groups and find out more information how you can exchange different things throughout the city. Jo Lynn Lutz from One Heart. Peace. Love you all. Let's change the world. All right. Thank you, Felicity.
Thank
Bye bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye.